Well, hey everybody, this is Eric with Your Next Step Coaching, and I've got my friend David Grix here on the call with me. David, glad to have you.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, guys, I wanted y'all to know David has become a good friend of mine. We've been working together now for I think 2.5 years, and he is one of the best leaders that I know. And I don't want to spoil what you do yet, David. So I'm gonna let you tell everybody that. But the goal for our conversation today is if you're in leadership and you're trying to create a great guest experience, I'm really glad you're watching today because David knows how to do that. So David, a little bit about you. Tell everybody what you do and how long you've been doing it for and all that kind of fun stuff.
Okay, you're going to have me tell on myself how old I am, but I work for Chick-fil-A. I operate the restaurant in Kernersville, and I have worked for Chick-fil-A since I was 16 years old. So I won't say how many years that is. I'll leave it up to you guys to guess. But it's been a little while. But I started when I was 16 years old. I had a friend that worked at Chick-fil-A, and he would always talk about how much he loved his job and how fun it was. And I was looking for a job at the time, so I applied and didn't get hired. I was a little disappointed. Didn't hear anything. Never got a phone call. So went to work for my next door neighbor. And about 6 months later, I got a phone call, and it was the Chick-fil-A operator saying that he was going through some old applications and asked if I was still interested in the job. And I indeed was. He hired me, and it was a tough conversation to have with my next door neighbor to tell him I was going to be leaving, but it was probably the best decision I ever made. And met my wife working at Chick-fil-A, got a scholarship to college working for Chick-fil-A. I have 3 sons. All 3 of them work in the business with me. So you can say that peanut oil truly runs in the Grix family blood. And it's been a great organization to work for. I started working as a 16-year-old kid. I think it gives me really good perspective because everything that I ever ask anyone to do, I've done thousands of times myself. I know what's involved in it. I know whether it's fun, whether it's a unpleasant job. I know how long it should take. And everyone knows I'm not afraid to roll up my sleeves and jump right in with them and help them, if they need help. So I think it's been a really good perspective that I have that maybe others don't have.
Yeah. David, what attracted you to Chick-fil-A in the first place?
Being closed on Sunday was a really big deal. I really,
Yeah.
Appreciated it as a 16-year-old kid. I appreciate it so much more now that I have a family, and to be able to have one day every week that I can just turn that part of my brain off. Because even if it's a day that I don't go to work, that I take a day off, then I still have my phone with me. I'm still getting calls. I still am thinking about things. Wondering about the business. Whereas on Sunday, I can just completely turn it off. It allows me to refresh, recharge, and I'm ready to go Monday morning. So it is a wonderful, wonderful feature. Also, having the college scholarship opportunity was huge for me. It's just, honestly, it's a fun place to be. It's a great environment. Chick-fil-A is a fantastic organization, and I'm just honored to be a part of it.
Well, it's got to be fun and fantastic because it's all you've known since you're 16 years old, right?
That is true. I have no idea. I can't imagine what I would be doing if I was not doing what I do today. I have no clue. I hope I never have to find out too.
Yeah. Now, when you went off to college, was your major related to anything at Chick-fil-A?
No, actually, I actually was an English major. My passion, I loved writing. I mean, I was really good at. And
Wow.
My thought was maybe I would go into teaching, but I really didn't know. But I did know that I really enjoyed working for Chick-fil-A. So as I was getting close to graduating from college, I just kind of sat down with the operator that I was working for at the time, he was my mentor, had a real conversation with him about, what it would look like if I were to pursue that path as a career. It was certainly nothing that I had really planned on, but when it came time for me to start mapping out my future, I realized that it was just something I enjoyed so much that I thought, well, why don't I see how far I can go with this before I close this chapter of my life and open another one. And, fortunately for me, things worked out, and it didn't work out immediately. And, there was some hoops that I had to jump through and some things that I had to do to make it happen. But, fortunately, it did happen. And, now I'm in a place where I feel like I have the best job in the world.
That's awesome. So one of the things that you have years of hands-on experience with is creating powerful guest experiences, right? Creating that great guest experience. And so what makes a great guest experience in your opinion?
So one of the things we talk about is creating remarkable guest experiences. And by remarkable, we tried to create a guest experience that someone is going to tell other people about. A lot of times people will tell the negatives, but they don't always tell the good experiences that they have. So we try to create an experience where people are going to go out and they tell their friends, let me tell you what happened today when I went out to lunch, and tell a story bragging on something that one of our team members did for them. At the end of the day, I guess if you had to put a word to it, is that we're trying to create relational guest experiences rather than transactional experiences. I feel like that's kind of what separates us from our competition. Is I think they're all about trying to create more transactions, and we're trying to create more relations with our guests.
David, can you unpack that? What does that mean, relational guest experience?
So, we have people who everyone here that works here knows. They know them by name because they're people that, they're frequent guests. And, one of the things that we try to do is we try to learn as many guest names as we can. And, what we found is that there's people who come here when they're not even hungry. They come here because of the relationships that they've built with our team. And, they get to know them on a personal level. They get to know about their lives, their families, their jobs. We have a lady that works here, and she is fantastic about compiling information about people. And when we have someone that has a death in the family, or we have someone who is having a surgery or something like that, she knows about it, and she's got a card ready to send to them and gets everyone to sign it. We send it off to them just to let them know that, hey, we're thinking about you. We know what's going on, and we're here for you. And I think at the end of the day, we're a restaurant. We serve food.
Yeah, right.
But it's one thing to serve food, and it's another thing to be an oasis where we refresh more than the body. We refresh the spirit too. And that's what we try to accomplish.
I love that. What, in your experience there at Chick-fil-A, what have been, going back to your word, remarkable? Are there some remarkable instances that stand out in your mind as when you saw your staff give remarkable care to maybe a patron there or a customer?
It happens. It happens frequently. I mean, from someone car runs out of gas in our drive-through line. So our team, it's happened a number of times. They jump into action. Help push the car out of the line of traffic into a.
I love that.
Space. Yeah. We have a gas can here, and so if the gas can is empty, we'll hop in our personal vehicle, drive over to the gas station, fill it up, put gas in their car, get them off and going. Yeah. A lot of times it has something to do with vehicles, because people, someone's car won't start, we go out and, jump start their car, or, get some coolant if if their car's overheating or whatever. Sometimes it has to do with, sometimes you have a mom with, 2 or 3 kids running around, and she can't, keep track of the kids and carry a, tray of food. So, we just say, hey, go have a seat, get set up, and, we'll bring the food over to your table. And, our host or hostess might help them get a high chair and place mats for the kids and get them all situated. And we bring the food over to the table. Just anything that we can do to help make the experience beyond what they expect from a fast food restaurant. Because at the end of the day, we like to consider ourselves more than the typical fast food restaurant, but that's what people expect. They expect to be able to get their food from us fast. So, we try to do other things to go above and beyond that expectation, but, we have to be able to meet that first.
I love what you said about moving beyond just transactional, because that's what everybody expects. And you want to give people what they expect, but to the relational side. And that to me is, powerful way of creating a great guest experience there. Now, I mean, you've listed a lot of great examples, and obviously Chick-fil-A, stands by all this and it's their passion, but why is this important to you personally?
Well, several reasons. One is because there have been so many people who came before me who have put their lifetime work into building this brand and this reputation that Chick-fil-A enjoys. And I take it personally that, hey, I've got to do my part to help build and enhance this reputation. Because I was given a business with a sterling reputation. And it's my job to make sure that I don't do anything to harm that, and that in fact I help grow and build that reputation myself. When people eat here, I kind of see the business as a reflection upon me personally. So I want everything to be perfect. I want everything to be right. I want to, when I see someone, I want them to come talk to me and tell me about the great experience that they had at my restaurant and how friendly the young team member that served them was, and how good the food was and how fast it was. I love hearing all those things. That's like food to my soul. It just, I just love hearing that.
Yeah.
At the same time, we're not perfect. We make mistakes, and, sometimes I hear the negative stuff, and that can be soul crushing too. At the same time, it can really hurt when you hear someone that didn't have a good experience. But I've come to learn as I've grown and matured that, when someone gives you that feedback, they're really giving you a gift, because they're giving you the opportunity to make that right and to fix something that maybe I wasn't even aware of that was broken. So even though I hate receiving that kind of feedback, it's great, because I'd much rather have someone tell me what happened rather than have somebody just never come back and me wonder, gee, what happened to so and so? I wonder, did they move or what? I haven't seen them in a while. So that's kind of the way that I look at that kind of feedback.
I love it. One of the things I loved what you said, and a lot of that is how personally you take the culture, and you're involved in creating and setting that. It's not just, hey, y'all please do this and kind of walking away, but it's really, continuing to feed that culture by your own actions and setting the example. The other thing I heard you say was you saw feedback as a gift. How long did it take for you to see feedback as a gift? That's something that has taken a while for me to look at it that way. I mean, it really, there was a time where it would really kind of ruin my day when I got, a piece of bad negative feedback. It would really, Melody would know when I got home that, boy, something must have happened, because he's not in a very good mood. And it still bothers me, and it probably always will bother me. But at least now I kind of look at it as, hey, I have this opportunity and this responsibility to make it right and to try to prevent this from happening to someone in the future. Well, and when you think about it, that you have how many employees that work at your store approximately?
Close to 100, about
Yeah.
90, between 90 and 100.
So 90 to 100 employees, and I can't imagine how many people are actually walking into your store every day, every week. That's a lot of people, and you're talking about quite a bit of feedback too. So I like what you said about just being able to distance yourself a little bit from it, being able to learn from it and not take it so personal anymore,
Yeah.
and really
Yep.
but to create a great guest experience, a lot of it is listening to feedback, isn't it?
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what would you advise to a leader that's watching this and they care about their guest experience or their culture that they're trying to create? What would you advise them to do to get started?
So, I would say the first thing is communication with your team. Your team has to know uh, where the goal is. If they don't know, they may be thinking that the most important thing to you is something other than guest experience. They may think it's sales or accuracy or something like that.
Yeah.
What I've come to learn is that everything, uh, guest experience is made up of a lot of different things. So you can choose to focus on one area of it, but ultimately you have to be aware of the whole spectrum of what goes into the guest experience. So I think communicating to your team what is important, and you have to set the example yourself. You have to be willing to show everybody, model the type of behavior that you want from your team. And then addressing when someone falls short of your expectations, you have to address that immediately, because if you don't, then in your team's mind, you have just given approval to that behavior. So
Yeah.
if you don't address it as it occurs, then they think that, oh, David saw me do that and he didn't say anything, so he must be okay with me doing that. And then
That's so good.
then it'll get away from you if you're not careful. So I would say that's the easy way to start. With Chick-fil-A, we have a lot of resources, fortunately, that Chick-fil-A has come up with over the years. One of the things that we try to do is, we try to create second mile service behaviors, which the idea of second mile service is based on biblical teaching. In Matthew 5, the idea of when a Roman soldier could ask you to carry his gear for a mile, and Jesus said, carry it a second mile. So it's just going beyond the expectation of the guest. So we try to do that in a variety of different ways. So I would just say, take a look at your business model and what a customer expects from you, and then what can we do. It's usually very easy to find some small things that you can do to exceed those expectations, but if you do enough of those, it will really, really have a powerful impact on your guests.
I love it, man. There's so much gold there. I want to go back to something you said, because most of us do not enjoy conflict. And so when you see a team member doing something that goes against the culture that you're trying to create in terms of having and creating a great guest experience, when you see a team member doing something and you've got to address it, how do you typically do that, or how do you train your managers maybe to do that?
Sure. Well, what you don't want to do is you don't want to embarrass your team member, because you hired them for a reason. So if they're valuable to you, valuable enough to keep around, you obviously want to make sure that you're that you're not doing anything to make them feel uncomfortable or embarrass them. So it's always good to have a private conversation with them. Just pull them aside and just say, hey, I'd love to sit down with you for a minute. Something I noticed that I'd like to talk to you about. And then just kind of go over the situation. Here's what I observed with that transaction with that guest. I heard you say this, and that's really not the way I would want you to handle that situation going forward. If it happens again, here's the way I would like for you to handle that situation, and just kind of let them know exactly what your expectation is, so that, okay, next time, they know how to handle that.
Yeah.
Usually what I found is it's not a willingness issue. It's usually just a knowledge gap. Either they don't know how to do it, or they don't know what to do. And so it just can be a coaching session, and other people will hear about it, because they will tell, after that's over with, they'll tell their friend, hey,
oh, that's good.
Yeah, David just told me this. And, so then the word spreads, and people who may have been, unaware also, that they become aware that way. And if it's something an issue that I see happening, multiple times with multiple different people, then it becomes something that maybe we let our training directors be aware of. Hey, this is something that might be slipping through the cracks, because I've noticed several people, not understanding this concept.
Yeah. That's great advice, and that's great advice. So picture yourself, sitting on a beach somewhere years from now, and you've retired, and you're looking back on your career. How do you want to be remembered? What do you want your team to say about you when it's all when it's all said and done?
I guess I would say that at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, if people people who are part of my team and who have worked for me, people who we have served as guests, people in our community, if they were to say that David truly cared about me, then I would feel like I did my job well. Because at the end of the day, these people that work for me they're part of my family. And I know that a lot of them, have tough situations, maybe a tough situation at home, or maybe they have health issues, or maybe they have, marital issues, or whatever. And, I need to know them well enough to know what's going on in their lives, so that I can care for them the way maybe they would not otherwise have someone who can care for them. That's the thing that I love about Chick-fil-A, is it's given me a platform that I can show care to people, and be able to help people. And so, if that's how I'm remembered, then I'll be very, very proud of the job that I've done.
That's awesome. And for those of you who may not know, this video is being recorded right now in our COVID-19 situation. Here we are coming up on Memorial Day here in May. And David, you sent me a picture the other day that I feel like describes exactly the kind of impact that you wanted to have. And you sent me a picture that your staff had just written you a ton of thank you cards and put them all out on a table for you, just to communicate how much you mean to them.
Yeah. It got me really, really emotional, because it was so unexpected. I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like, I never do enough for my team, and for them to just take the time to write me a note, just telling me how much they appreciate me. And it just blew me away. It was just beyond what I could handle. I mean, it just really was touching. And, I could not have come at a better time. I mean, it was really something that was needed, and it lifted me up. And it was just wonderful to know that they care about me in the same way that I care about them.
That's cool. And I really think that's a great place to end, because what I heard you say is when it's all said and done, I just want them to know that I care. And that communicates in how you create that guest environment with your staff, your team, and all that stuff. So, man, thank you for sharing your wisdom here. I think this is great, and I think it's great, some basic principles that you don't have to go have lots of fancy different tools and things to be able to do this, right? It's something that anybody could do with some intentionality. Would you agree?
It's not rocket science. I mean, it just, all it is it just takes you putting effort and focus into it, and making it a priority. You know, as the leader of the business, if you make it a priority, you know, it will get done.
Yeah,
So it's, you know, that's really the one takeaway is just make it a priority, and you know, keep hammering at it
yep,
until everyone realizes you're serious about it, and then you know, it'll take off, and you'll look around and notice that your guests are being cared for the way you would want them to be.
I love it. David, thank you so much for being here and giving us your wisdom on how to create a great guest experience.
Eric, it was my pleasure.